I recently watched the second season of Bandish Bandits. Now, considering how much I had loved season 1 when it released back in 2020, I should have probably done this sooner. But now that I have watched season 2, and in fact rewatched it for this video, here is my take on the second season of Bandish Bandits. For those of you who couldn't watch season 1 when it released back in 2020, here's a whistle-stop tour. Radhe Rathod, a young Indian classical musician, absolutely adores his grandfather Radhe Mohan Rathod, or Pandit Ji as he is better known, a prominent guru and the founder of the Rathod Gharana. Now, a Gharana, simply put, is a school of thought or a unique approach to the performance of an ancient Indian arts tradition. Enter Tamanna, a pop artist with a giant social media following and one hit song under her belt. In fact, when she enters the world of the show, her latest song has already been deemed a failure, threatening to shatter her dreams of collaborating with Queen Ellie, an international pop star. Radhe happens to be at one of her concerts, and that evening when he performs in front of Tamanna, she immediately decides that she wants to collaborate with him. Enter Digvijay, Pandit Ji's son, who neither Radhe nor the audience had ever heard of. It eventually turns out that Pandit Ji had abandoned Digvijay and his mother, moved to a new city, married somebody else, and started a whole new family there. Digvijay struts into the scene, a very successful singer, demanding that Pandit Ji declare him his successor and hand over the Gharana to him. In the meantime, financial pressures within the family force Radhe to accept Tamanna's offer of collaboration. They get together and begin to perform as Bandish Bandits. Pandit Ji by now has also realized that he is losing his hearing and therefore needs someone to represent him at an event called the Sangeet Samrat Samaroh, where musicians compete against each other for the title of Sangeet Samrat. Literally translated, that means the king of music. As Radhe struggles to manage his commitments to Pandit Ji and Tamanna, there is love, there is grief, insecurities bubble, there are strained relationships. The perfect formula for a good drama. But the hero of the show is undoubtedly the music. There are some beautifully composed musical cues in the show, and these are a masterclass in how to blend traditional and modern music. There are some wonderful performances, and we end season 1 with Radhe earning the title of Sangeet Samrat, but having to deal with the breakup of Bandish Bandits and Tamanna leaving. Season 2 begins about 3 months after the end of season 1. Pandit Ji has passed away, but a book that was published about his life has left all the skeletons in the family's cupboard exposed. And the family and Gharana have lost all the goodwill they had earned thus far. There are many things to like about season 2. This season is mounted on a much larger scale than season 1, and therefore the production value is significantly better. I also like the fact that there is a music performance that comes so close to the beginning of the season, because it tells us that, like season 1, music is the hero of this season as well. Now let us take a look at a few organizing principles that I was taught at film school. These of course aren't rules, because like any other art form, filmmaking is highly subjective. Nevertheless, they can work as a good guide with which to structure stories for dramaturgy. First, is there a clear protagonist? And I would argue that there is. Even though there are two main characters, Radhe and Tamanna, like my lecturers used to say, even in an ensemble cast, one is always greater among the equals. In this case, I would argue that this story truly belongs to Radhe, and therefore, if I had to choose one protagonist, it would be Radhe. Does the protagonist make a clear choice? And yes, both Radhe and Tamanna make clear choices in their respective trajectories, and for both of them, the choice-making moment happens when they make decisions that lead them to compete against each other at the India Band Championship, which forms the backdrop of the show. In this case as well, Radhe's choices are far more active than Tamanna's, for whom it often feels like circumstances are pushing her to compete at the India Band Championship. And finally, is there a turn as a result of the choice the protagonist makes? Now, a turn is typically a shift in a specific human value. For example, two strangers fall in love. The human value of love was at a negative at the beginning of the film, and over the course of the film, when two people fall in love, the human value of love is at a positive when the film ends. For Radhe, his objective was to regain the social capital and reputation that his family had lost when the book about Panditji had been published. For Tamanna, it was to prove that she was a good artist, perhaps by beating Radhe at the championship. I'm not giving any spoilers away, but they had very clear objectives, and in both of their cases, there has been a turn, a very clear turn. They have both achieved their objectives, and therefore they began at a negative at the beginning of the season and ended on a positive. So even according to those organizing principles, the structure of the story of Bandish Bandits season 2 is very sound. The performances, of course, are lovely. The camera work and editing is far more playful. In fact, what I really enjoy about the camera work in season 2 is that it is far more subjective than season 1. There are far more point of view shots, over the shoulder shots. It is a very, very subjectively shot season, and you actually feel like you're there on stage with the characters, facing the audience, facing each other and interacting with each other. And I really enjoyed that aspect. The editing actually looks like a reality TV show every time we move into the India Band Championship. And that makes it a very dynamic, very playful season. And I really enjoyed that. In fact, that playfulness is also visible in the lighting. The lighting in the show went from this in season 1 to this in season 2. There were many things to love about season 2 of Bandish Bandits, but there was one thing I didn't quite like, and this is really my only criticism of the show. The creators were showing too much. This was an issue with dialogues, but primarily with flashbacks, both to earlier moments in season 2 and to moments in season 1. And this was done even in moments where the connection between what was happening on screen now and a moment that had happened in season 1 was obvious. And that is why the subtext was not as effective as it could have been. Effective use of subtext is a wonderful storytelling device. And it felt like the flashbacks and the dialogue, which often spoke of things that could have been and would have been obvious to the audience, actually slackened the tension because subtext was not as effectively used. And I wish this had been just a little better taken care of, because understanding subtext and how to use that effectively within the story structure when you're writing a script is perhaps one of the most important things a writer can do. This is really a very basic thing that I wish more filmmakers considered when they were writing their script. All in all, Bandish Bandits is a wonderful show to watch. So if you haven't watched season 2, please go to Amazon Prime Video, watch the show. And if you haven't watched season 1, please go and binge both seasons. I absolutely loved them. I've been listening to the music album on loop. The filmmaking, the music composition, all of it is lovely. I'll be back with another video very soon. Till then, binge Bandish Bandits, like this video and subscribe to the channel. I'll be back soon.